Welcome back to the Business Show for Business Owners, your first 1,000 clients. I'm your host, Mitch Russo, and I've been an entrepreneur, business owner, corporate CEO, venture capitalist, and company founder for the last 30 years. And if you are just joining us for the first time, the mission of my show is twofold: to uncover your potential and guide you to realizing it, and provide you with the tools and the wisdom to get your own company to 1,000 clients and beyond. My guests are leaders and business owners who have been selected to share their hard-won wisdom, who want you to avoid the potholes of life and cruise smoothly to your goals. My guest today is a legendary business expert who wrote the most powerful book in the history of business. It's called The E Myth. Michael Gerber, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Mitch. Delighted to be here.
You know, for those who don't know what the E Myth is, can you tell us more about how it came about and exactly what it is?
Sure. The E Myth actually was launched in 1977 when I started my very first business development firm. And for the previous couple of years, I'd been working at my brother-in-law's ad agency in Silicon Valley. Mm-hmm. And it was a lark, and it was an accident, and I had no intention being there. And certainly when I started there, I had no idea what was about to happen. I was on my way from one place in my life to another place in my life, and I stopped off at my brother-in-law's house in Belmont, California.
That's a great story.
Yeah, and there I was. I was then, and I was 38 years of age. I had decided prior to this thing happening that I was tired of working with my mouth. I was tired of being a salesman and a beatnik and a hippie and on and on and on and on. Everything and anything, and a saxophone player and a what have you.
Right.
Everybody wants to know all about that. Mishigas, as they say, my Jewish people. Anybody who wants to know about that can certainly read about all that, because I've written about all that. And I went to Southern California from Northern California to learn how to work with my hands. I decided I'm going to become a carpenter.
Wow.
And I went to Southern California and started cold calling on small contracting firms to get my first job.
Right.
I have a little story, went down the street, knocked on doors. Hi, you don't know me. I'm Michael E. Gerber. I'm from Northern California. Came down looking for a job, looking blah, 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 blah. What kind of a job? Whatever you got, you got, because I've done just about everything that you need done. If you need a guy, I'm the guy. And I went out and said that. And now you got to understand, I didn't know anything. I mean, I didn't know anything.
Right.
All I needed was to get that first job. And then the second job, then the third job, because that's exactly what happened. I get the first job, and then they'd fire me in 3 minutes when they discovered I didn't know anything. But when they did that, I went into that job with my eyes wide open and my ears wide open, because I went out to truly discover what the job was. I was actually on a research project, understand, for the rest of my life. So what am I getting myself into? So what does this look like? So how do the people who do this? What do they do? Now, this is absolutely the worst way in the world, you might say, to do what I was setting out to do. But you got to understand, I was determined to do it.
But your rates were really good, weren't they?
Oh, yeah, my rates were terrific. My rates were terrific. Here I am, an old guy, yep, in terms of that industry, looking for a job that 17-year-olds do.
Right.
And here I'm showing up, and, I could talk a game. Then I got into the game. Then I had to discover what the game was. Well, finally, I did get my first job. But the guy said, look, you can try to pull the wool over my eyes, but just don't do that. I understand you're a lunatic. And what you really want to do is you want to change your life. And you're going to do that by working for a living and doing manual labor. Well, I'll introduce you to manual labor, and you'll understand what that is. And you'll probably not be here by the end of the day. So here we are, go do it. Yep. And he assigned me to the head pickup guy on the track. And a pickup man is the guy who goes around and fixes all the framing mistakes that are made on the job. And so here's this guy who's been in the business for a generation. I mean, he's old guy. And he said, what do you want? And I said, I want to learn how to do this. He said, okay, go do this. And he told me to go do something, and I went and did it. It was called pick up those 2x4s and put them over there. Pick up those 2x6s and put them over there. Pick up that bag of concrete and put it over there. That's what I was doing.
Yep.
Day one, I'm exhausted. Day two begins. Pick up those 2x6s, put them over there. Take those 2x4s and put them up there. On and on and on. So I'm learning how to do this stupid essential stuff that I needed to learn how to do while I'm watching what other people do.
Right.
That happened over 3 years. By the time I was done in 3 years, I was now the pickup guy on the track.
Right.
I now had learned what I set out to learn. And then I decided to pick up my wife and our 2 dogs in my 52 Chevy pickup truck and go north to Mendocino County where the dope was, where I was going to become a framing contractor. So you get this romantic idea.
Sure.
Because I'm a true romantic. I've always been a true romantic. And so I shaped my life. And on the way, I stopped over at Ace's house. That's my brother-in-law. And he's saying, Michael, what are you doing? I said, I'm a carpenter. He said, what do you mean you're a carpenter? The last time I saw you, you were playing the saxophone on Fisherman's Wharf. What do you mean you're a carpenter? And I said, Ace, it's just like that. You make up your mind. You go shape your life. You can do whatever you decide to do. This is what I decided to do. I'm on my way to Mendocino County with my wife. And we're going to be, and And so we settled down for a week to stay with Marcia and Ace, my sister and my brother-in-law, and to share all the whatever's going on in our lives. Ace comes to me, and he says, Michael, would you do me a favor? He said, I've got a client who can't convert the leads we create for him with our advertising into sales. Would you come meet with Bob and find out what the problem is? I say, Ace, I don't know anything about business. I certainly don't know anything about high tech. How am I going to help him? He says, Michael, you know more than you think you do. Just do me the favor. Let's go meet Bob and let's see what happens. Well, I'm up for anything. So I said, sure. So we go meet with Bob. Bob's in his office. Ace introduces Michael, Bob, Michael. And Ace said, look, guys, I'm going to take off for an hour, get to know each other, and let's see what happens. Bob looks at me with this wary look in his eye. He said, so, Michael, what do you know about my business? And I said, nothing, Bob. He looks a little discouraged. His watch, he's thinking an hour. Guy knows nothing about my business. How long is this going to take? And he says, well, if you don't know anything about my business, what do you know about my product? And I said, less than that, Bob. So, Michael, if you don't know anything about my product, you don't know anything about my business, how can you help me? I said, I haven't a clue, Bob. But Ace thinks I can. You like Ace. I like Ace. Ace obviously likes the two of us. So he's given us an hour to find out what, in fact, I can do to help you. So let me ask you some questions. So we start out with 2 assumptions. First of all, my first assumption is I don't know anything about business. And my second assumption is Bob does because he owns one. That's how this whole thing started, Mitch. I don't know anything about business. Bob does because he owns one. And I started the questions. And as I began to ask the questions, it became rapidly clear to me that my second assumption was actually not accurate. Because as I asked him the questions, I realized he was giving me anecdotal answers, not really knowing answers.
Right.
Sort of guessing answers. And what also came to me is I realized that I did know something about business. I knew that selling is a system. And I knew that because I'd learned that. I'd learned that selling encyclopedias. I'd learned that selling insurance. I'd learned that selling shoes. I'd learned that selling is a system. This is how you do it. Step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. I had become a master at that. And in fact, when I started all that selling, I didn't know anything about any of it. You understand? I didn't know anything about how to sell encyclopedias, anything about how to sell insurance, anything about how to sell shoes. And the first thing I had to do was to learn how to do that. And in each of those cases, whether it be encyclopedias, whether it be insurance, or whether it be shoes, somebody knew how.
Yep.
And that somebody who knew how was the best one at doing it. And so what I would do would be to study with the best one who did it. In short, I didn't say I want to be your student. I just watched and listened and watched and listened. And as I watched and listened, I soon developed my own system for doing it. And I swear, Mitch, that system was rigorous. There was a step 1 in it. There was always a step 1 in it. And step 1 was always the same. And there was a step 2 in it, and so forth and so forth. And so I realized that Bob didn't know that. And I said, Bob, your biggest single problem is you've got sales engineers who are functioning without a system.
Right.
And if in fact I created a selling system for you, Bob, you could have kids selling your product. Right. They didn't have to know anything about the engineering of it. They didn't have to know anything about your consumer. All of that could be coordinated into a selling system. Bob looked at me as though I was nuts. He said, do you know how to do that? And I said, of course I do. Ace comes and picks me up, and he said, so what happened? I said, Bob hired me. What do you mean Bob hired you? You don't know anything about his business. I said, Ace, that's what I told you. He hired me to create a selling system for him. And I absolutely know I can do that. And I did. And that was client number 1. And so Ace had client number 2, but this one was in the furniture business. Another one was an advertising agency. Another one was a graphic design company. And as I would go out and meet these clients of Ace's, I began to discover that not one of them really wanted advertising. What they want is more customers.
Of course.
What Ace didn't understand is that the bridge between creating a lead and creating a sale was a science. And that if he was unaware, Ace, my brother-in-law, if he was unaware of what that science entailed, he would always invariably create leads that couldn't be converted because the client who had to convert them didn't understand the science either.
Yep.
So I suddenly found myself in the, you might say, realm of creating a business development system there at Ace's ad agency. And gradually, the more that worked, the more it became apparent to me that in his ad agency, exactly the same thing had to happen. But he wasn't interested in that.
Really?
And because he wasn't interested in that, because he was more interested in doing it.
Right, right.
In short, just like every single one of his clients were.
Sure.
Doing it, busy. It was all about him. It was all about him. It was all about him. It was all about them. It was all about them. It was all about them. Just like every person who's listening to us right now. They are, if you will, their business.
Yep.
They don't own a business. They are a business. That's why personal branding has become so popular. It's because they believe that they need to position themselves, not understanding that it's exactly the opposite of what they're really there to do.
So, Michael, what you're saying is going to fly in the face of almost everybody listening to this because, like you just explained, they think they're the business. And what I know, because I've been a student of yours for decades, is that no, they're not the business. It's what the business does and the systemized way that it does it that is truly what the business is about. Now, there's all this other stuff that goes with it, but ultimately, and this is what the E-Myth gave me. So when I went to work for Chet Holmes and Tony Robbins to build business breakthroughs, the first thing we did was study the E-Myth, and we started literally building all of the components. It was sort of like jumping off the roof of a building with a erector set and trying to create the system on the way down. But we did it, and we built the systems, and we were able to duplicate them, and we were able to make them strong and durable so that as we added more and more and more leads, up to 3,000 leads a week coming in from the telephone, we were able to handle them, convert them, and close them. So the E-Myth to me gave me that entire inspiration. And I'm an engineer, so I felt very comfortable understanding the systems and implementing them.
Yes, and you're speaking directly to the experience of so many people who in fact have been inspired by that book that you just described, the E-Myth Revisited, why most small businesses don't work and what to do about it. Almost like a religion.
Yep.
And that's why the Wall Street Journal says it's the most influential book about small business and entrepreneurship ever published. And every year it sells more than it did the year before without any advertising, without any cookies, without any marketing, without any internet, whatever, and so forth, without any social media. It just keeps on rolling along. Now, why is that? And that is because, just as you learned, Mitch, just as Tony Robbins learned, the system is the solution.
Yes.
If in fact it depends upon you or me or Tony or whomever, if there isn't something underlying that can be replicated faithfully in the hands of relatively ordinary people, it will never, ever grow. And because that's true, I set out to do exactly what I've been doing over the past 40 years, to launch my very first business development firm. I left the ad agency and went off on my own to start my very first business development firm. It so happens that the guy Ace brought in to replace me, his name was Thomas Travisano. The guy Ace brought in to replace me asked me where I was going after we watched what I was doing there. And I said, I'm going to do this on my own. Mm-hmm. He said, well, hell, I don't want to stay here. I want to go with you. So we did. And the first company that we created was called the Michael Thomas Corporation. And the Michael Thomas Corporation was what we called it, a business development firm. But when we started the Michael Thomas Corporation, we started out with 4 very critical ingredients before we ever opened our doors. And we called those 4 very critical ingredients our dream, our vision, our purpose, and our mission. So let me state unequivocally what those were, because they're written right here in my mind, because they were explicated clearly at the very outset of our company to give shape to the company we were about to create, the Michael Thomas Corporation. First, we had a dream, and our dream literally was to transform the state of small business worldwide. There's a story underlying that, but the dream was to transform the state of small business worldwide. That was the business of the Michael Thomas Corporation. Mm-hmm. We had a vision, and our vision was to invent the McDonald's of small business consulting. We set out to disrupt completely small business consulting. What Uber did to the taxi cab industry, we did to the small business consulting industry. There are no more small business consultants. There haven't been for years. You know they've been replaced by small business coaches.
Right.
The coaching industry has in fact overtaken what was presumed to be the small business consulting industry. Mm-hmm. Nobody's going to hire a small business consultant. Oh, they might hire someone who says he's a small business consultant, but they're going to call him their coach. You follow me? I
do. Well, I actually want to make sure I follow you. Would you describe the difference between a coach and a consultant for those of us who want to be clear about it?
Yeah. A coach doesn't have to know anything about his client's business.
Okay.
A consultant needs to know everything about his client's business.
Okay.
A consultant's an expert. A coach isn't.
Right.
Understand, they're an expert at coaching, not an expert at the subject matter.
Okay.
And so indeed, what we did was to completely reshape the idea of expertise. Essentially, what we're saying is the client had to possess the expertise about being a chiropractor, about being an insurance salesman, about et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The coach was there to keep the client on track and to define what the track was.
Right.
You follow?
Of course.
You know that to be true. Mm-hmm. Every coach knows that to be true. Because the minute they become an expert in the modality called a chiropractor or a plumber or a whatever and so forth, they're in a completely different business.
That's right.
They're now either a consultant or a trainer.
Mm-hmm.
We created coaching.
Yep.
Not training, not consulting, coaching. We invented it.
Mm-hmm.
Whole hog plus the postage. That's what we did.
Yep.
So our second was to invent the McDonald's of small business consulting, e.g. turnkey consulting.
Yep.
Delivered by kids at minimum wage. You follow me? Not with experts.
Right.
Our coaches didn't need to know anything about business. Our experts, our coaches, need to be masters of our coaching system.
Of course.
That's what we set out to do. And I knew, based upon the previous experience in the ad agency, that every single client company suffers from identically the same problems, whether it be an ad agency, whether it be a computer company, whether it be a plumber, whether it be a lithographer, didn't make any difference.
Yep.
What we needed to do is simply discover what those problems were universally.
Mm-hmm.
So we were inventing a universal solution to a specialized problem. Something everybody else told us we were crazy. You can't do that. It's impossible. It's impossible. It's impossible. You can't do that. It's bullshit. We are. And we did it. And that's why I'm here speaking to you. So that was the dream and the vision. The third most important ingredient was the purpose. And our purpose was that every single one of our business clients who followed our lead could be as successful as a McDonald's franchisee.
Yep.
Now understand how ludicrous that is. Nobody in small business is as successful as a McDonald's franchisee, because nobody in small business possesses the regimen that a McDonald's franchisee operates within. That regimen, called that operating system, is sacrosanct.
Yep.
It's sacrosanct at McDonald's, it's sacrosanct at Starbucks, it's sacrosanct at Walmart, it's sacrosanct at Apple, it's sacrosanct wherever it is operating. When you walk into an Apple store, you're walking into a system.
That's right.
And that system was designed, built, launched, grown, quantified, and qualified rigorously, Because that Apple Store is a product.
Mm-hmm.
And that product of apples enables Apple to know unfailingly when that product, that store, is working or not, and where it's working and where it's not, and what to do about it. Otherwise, they couldn't replicate it.
Well, replication, Michael, is the key here, because I know from you reading your books and understanding the way you think about this is that if you take the time to build this system and create this product, which in this case is the Apple Store, if you can't replicate it, then you don't have a business. You have a cute little store that happens to sell pretty little boxes.
You got a job.
That's right. You got a job.
You got a job you can't sell.
Right.
So understand also, Mitch, you created your company, you sold your company.
Mm-hmm.
This is what you shared with me.
Yep.
The only reason you were able to sell your company is because you had engineered your company.
That's right.
Produce results in a very tangible, practicable, methodological way. It's the system, stupid.
That's right.
Every good engineer understands this. Unfortunately, every good engineer doesn't make a good business owner. So, the fourth very important ingredient was that we call our mission. So understand, we had a dream, a vision, a purpose, and a mission. Mm-hmm. Our mission was to invent the business development system that we could deliver in the hands of, in quotes, novices rather than professionals. Our coaches were novices, not professionals, who we had trained to master our business development systems delivery to every single client we brought to them. Understand, our coaches didn't go out and get clients.
Right.
Our coaches were there to serve clients by delivering our system, our business development system, directly to that client. Step 1, step 2, step 3, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. All documented, all written down, all practicable, all doable, all representing what we call the hierarchy of growth, from a company of 1 to a company of 1,000, from a company of 1 to a company of 1,000. And I'm saying to every single individual who's listening to us right now that identically the same thing can be done for you. And that's what my new book, Beyond the E-Myth, is essentially there to do, to provide everybody who's listening to us with what I call the eightfold path. The eightfold path for growing a company of 1 to a company of 1,000. Not rhetoric, but a rigorous process.
So, Michael, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
I mean, the E-Myth to me was this perfect balance of taking everything that a business owner knows and creating a way to convert it into a profitable operating company. Why did you need to go beyond the E-Myth and write this new book?
I had to make it simple.
Okay.
When I set out in 1977 with a dream, a vision, a purpose, and a mission, and then began to apply the dream, the vision, the purpose, and the mission in the development of the Michael Thomas Business Development Program, all of that evolved over time into 29 books.
Right.
Into a methodology that we practiced rigorously to improve upon how we do what we do, to teach people who presume to be owners of small businesses literally what it requires to be a brilliant owner-operator of a brilliant company that is preparing to be sold.
Right.
So understand, we're saying that every company started is in fact on a track, and that track is from 1 to 1,000 to be sold. Because the only person who's going to buy your company is somebody who believes it's going to grow significantly beyond when they buy it.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
They're buying its ability to scale.
Right. But Michael, a lot of people don't have that as their dream, you know? In fact, why don't we start with the dream? Because when you start with the dream, you have this idea and then you take that dream and you try to convert it into reality. How does that differ from having a great idea and then feeling compelled to start a company around it? In other words, what is the vision and how is it different from the dream?
Well, first of all, most people don't have a dream.
Oh, okay.
When I talk about a dream, I'm speaking about literally a great result.
Okay.
Most people don't have a dream. Most people who go into small business, start a small business, aren't really compelled by a dream. They're compelled by making a living.
Sure.
So they want to make a living on their own.
Yep.
And they want to do that because they can't get a job that satisfies them. And so the vast majority of the planet is working unsatisfactorily, not making enough money, not living a liberated life, not free to do what they presume they want to do, truly controlled by the forces that control them. Mm-hmm. That's the boss. That's the rules of the game. Everything. You know that. Right. Let me give you a perfect example. This year, roughly 3.9 million kids will graduate from high school.
Okay.
This year.
Yep.
900,000 of them aren't registered for college.
Really? Wow.
900,000 of them are not registered for college. 2.1 million of them are.
Right.
But of the 2.1 million who are registered for college, just over 50% will fail to graduate from college.
Right. I know that.
Now they're back to the 900,000 who didn't go to college. What did they do instead? They went out to get a job.
Correct.
Right? What job?
Starbucks.
They don't know anything.
Right.
So if they're lucky, they might get hired at McDonald's or Starbucks or you name it.
Sure.
And unfortunately, many of those don't get hired by McDonald's or Starbucks or whatever. They just do something. Mm-hmm. And then they do something else. And then they do something else. And in the main, they're miserable. Now think about that. Every year, we're graduating over 900,000 people from high school to go out and be stupid.
Yep.
Yeah. And understand also that a great many of those in high school don't graduate.
That's true.
So just look at that world for a moment. Let's look at that one, what I call social vertical market. But what I'm saying is I can take every single one of those students who agrees that they need to learn something that they can do that in fact will enhance their economic well-being. Mm-hmm. I'm going to put them in school. I'm going to put them in business school. Every single one of them. And I'm going to charge them only $39 a month.
Okay.
And I'm going to take them through the process of teaching them the 8-fold path to creating a small business of their own.
Yep.
And I'm going to demonstrate to them literally step by step by step how to do that. With the knowledge that I have, that I could teach anyone how to do that.
Okay.
Anyone. Literally anyone. Doesn't matter what they know, doesn't matter what they don't know, doesn't matter about anything. I can teach anyone how to do that.
Right. And you're not speaking hypothetically, Michael. I mean, you're actually doing this. Is that right?
No, I mean, really.
Yep. Okay.
Really, I'm 81. I mean, really, at 81, I can say to you, just last week, I spent a day in Austin, Texas.
Yep.
At a campus where 37 of the most successful entrepreneurs on the planet came to spend a day with me.
Yep.
From around the world. Mm-hmm. Every single one of whom had successfully applied the E-Myth to grow their company. One of them, as an example, was Brian Scudamore. Brian Scudamore is the founder and CEO of 1-800-GOT-JUNK.
Right.
Brian Scudamore, by his own admission there, he spoke in the morning. Brian Scudamore told the story about how ADD he is. Mm-hmm. Doesn't read books. He couldn't focus his attention. While he was going to college, he had to make a living. And so he made a living picking up junk in his pickup truck. He's driving through McDonald's, and a buddy of his is there. And his buddy says, "Hey, Brian, I see you're picking up junk. Have you read this book?" And it was the E-Myth Revisited. Mm-hmm. Well, Brian tells this story better than I do. Brian said he sat down and read that book as difficult it was for him to read. He read it a second time. He read it a third time. He reads it every year. And he said he started then to go to work on his business.
Right.
And created 1-800-GOT-JUNK. Now hear me. Here's a guy who's today has a $250 million a year company. It was started in a pickup truck. I like to say from a pickup truck to a 747.
Yep.
Knew nothing about business. Just followed the book religiously.
Yep.
I'm saying to you, I can do that with any kid.
Well, I bet you can. And, getting back to the book, the reason I like what you're saying so much is because not only does this country need this effort, someone like you to lead this effort, it's amazing that you're doing this. But I also think it's very important for people to understand the distinction of how important, for example, the dream itself is. So one of the things that you say is, you talk about how most of us really don't take our dreams seriously enough. And I mean, I'm in full agreement with you. And I think in some ways we're enslaved by social media. And I'm afraid that we've given up on dreaming. And in the definition of dreaming, I mean the dreaming that you talk about, which is the true vision, the idea of, and to become passionate about the thing that's going to take you to the next level, your success, the enterprise that you are going to create to scale to 1,000 people. Is that right?
I'm saying the difference is huge.
Okay.
The difference between a personal dream and an impersonal dream.
Right.
My dream was an impersonal dream. Muhammad Yunus's dream in Bangladesh was an impersonal dream. Tony Robbins' dream was an impersonal dream. It
Right.
wasn't a dream about becoming a hotshot. It
Right.
wasn't a dream about becoming a millionaire. It wasn't a dream about getting everything that I could get. It had nothing to do with me at all. And it has nothing to do, Mitch, with you at all.
Yep.
It has to do with them. And so the outset of a great enterprise is always about them, not about me. The difference between those two is huge. Mm-hmm. Because suddenly it eradicates the tendency toward narcissism, which populates the me generation. And the me generation, which is, it's all about me, it's all about me, it's all about me, and everybody else telling you it's all about you, it's all about you, it's all about you. It has nothing to do with you. It has nothing to do with me. It has to do with them. All great work is great solely because it's aimed at them, not at me. So I am selfless in this regard. But that doesn't mean I'm not interested in myself. Of course I am. Every one of us are. But I'm not interested in growing my perception of myself and the world's perception of myself. I'm determined to create this great result. That's what the dream is. So we teach people through a process to discover them, not themselves, but the person who they're dedicated to serve.
Right.
It's about serving. It's about serving. It's about serving. And before anybody says to you or to me, yeah, but, forget every time yeah, but shows up. It means you're not listening.
Of course. Of course. And I think what you're talking about, Michael, is you're talking about what you call the great result. So the end result of the dream is to produce the great result, which is completely selfless in the transformation that you want to take place on behalf of the people who you serve. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. If we can transform the state of small business worldwide, then we will transform the state of the planet. You understand, the planet requires a healthy economic development capability. There are billions of people on this planet earning $1 a day.
Yep.
And working their asses off to earn $1 a day. I'm saying that's a crime.
Yes.
I'm saying they're only doing that because nobody has ever taught them how to do something other.
Right.
And I'm saying that over the past 40 years of developing the methodology for transforming the state of small business worldwide and constantly receiving evidence that we have done it, I'm saying now we're going to do it for everyone.
I love that.
Now we're going to take those 900,000 kids who are graduating from high school and teach them exactly what they need to know at a price every single one of them can afford. Here's this other thing, that of those kids who finally graduate from college, the average kid who graduates from college today has a $37,000 loan.
Yep. Waiting
to be repaid. That's the average. I was in front of dental students, and they told me that they owed over $300,000 for their education. Do you know what it's going to take to pay back $300,000 of indebtedness? Do you know that our federal government currently suffers under $1.4 trillion of college debt that is never going to be paid back, ever? Because nobody's earning enough to do it?
Yep.
That's why this is so important. Mitch.
I agree. I totally agree. So you defined the dream, and I love that. The next thing that you talk about is the vision. And the way I understand it is the vision is the form that the company itself is going to take.
Exactly. The company is going to have to do what it does in such a manner that will enable it to realize its dream.
Of course.
In order to do that, it has to be built in such a way that we can depend upon it doing that consistently.
Mm-hmm.
There is no more consistent success model on the planet than that of McDonald's. McDonald's is the most successful small business in the world. McDonald's is the most successful small business in the world. So if that's true, and it is, then effectively all we need to do is to mirror that model. And so in the process, I'm going to create the McDonald's of small business consulting.
Mm-hmm.
Turnkey, deliverable in the hands of novices who we can teach how to do exactly what needs to be done to deliver our business development system to every small business owner on the planet. Anybody right now who's listening to us who presumes to own a small business, what I'm saying to you is we have designed, built, launched, and grown a business development system that we can plug into your company, not without you, obviously with you leading it in such a way that it will truly grow electrically in order to produce a consistent result.
So listeners, what I want you to understand here and what Michael is describing is the second stage called the purpose. And while he's describing his purpose, What I want you to do is think about your own. Think about it from the stage that Michael described as the vision and now moving into the purpose. Finally, not finally, but the next step here, Michael, is what I think maybe my favorite step. It's the mission itself. And I think the mission, the way, again, I'm quoting from the book, it's the great business operating system that will enable the dream, the vision, and the purpose to be manifested as an operating enterprise.
Absolutely. And the reason you love that is because you're an engineer.
Yeah, of course. Can't help it. Sorry.
Yeah, but Mitch, because you're an engineer and because you love what I'm sharing with you, you've got to join us to make this a reality. Because we're going to launch this year. Mm-hmm. And by the end of 2018, we will have 1 million students in our entrepreneur school.
Yep.
Paying only $39 a month for the privilege of going to work on their company while going to work on their lives to literally create an economic transformation in their community. That's how absolutely certain we are about this. And that's why you have to do it. Anybody who's listening to us has to do it.
I agree.
If you care at all about the lives of people surrounding you who are struggling by doing stupid stuff that doesn't make any difference.
Yep. And the stupid stuff you talk about is like literally flipping burgers or dipping, frozen potatoes into a hot fryer. That's the stupid stuff. Or worse, doing things that hurt yourself. See, my vision for this process, Michael, is to have the listeners that are hearing about this now to want this for themselves. Because believe it or not, and I'm sure you realize, many of the people that are in the business of having that personal brand and that personal identity don't know how to get past that. And so I think they need this process as much as high school kids do. And in fact, I think you're right. I think everybody who believes that they could be more than what they are needs to understand that there's a path to do that. And absolutely. And understand, I used the high school graduate as one vertical. Of course.
Market.
Yep.
It's a social vertical. What we've been doing to prepare ourselves for this is writing and publishing now 18 vertical business books. The E Myth Accountant, the E Myth Attorney, the E Myth Real Estate Store, the E Myth Landscape Contractor, the E Myth Chiropractor, the E Myth Optometrist. We have done that by attracting individuals who've applied my E Myth paradigm to whatever their particular business or profession is.
Right.
And developed a model to do that. Mm-hmm. Now what I'm saying is every single one of those industries, every single one of those professions are also vertical business markets.
Yep.
So we have vertical businesses and social verticals, business verticals and social verticals. Take every single business on the planet and we can transform it. Just like the 37 folks who came to visit with me in Austin, Texas.
Sure.
We can transform any kind of company into a company of 1,000.
Yep. And for those listening, what we're going to be doing at the bottom of this page on yourfirst1000clients.com on Michael's show page, we're going to be putting links there that you can use to get more information, to read the book, and more importantly, to join Michael and I in this mission, because Michael just enrolled me, as you just saw. So I'm now part of this mission as well. So I'm excited about it. Michael, I'm completely behind you. I love what you're doing. I have a 22-year-old daughter who has a $250,000 education and works at a shoe store. So I need what you have.
Wait a second. Say what you just said again about your daughter. Please.
I'm embarrassed.
Please do that. Say it.
Okay, I have a 22-year-old daughter with a $250,000 education who makes $11.50 at a shoe store.
Thank you. She is going to be one of our very first students.
I love it.
But the good news is she can do this work while she's working in that shoe store, to the point where she'll suddenly be liberated from it.
I love it. I love it. I want to switch topics for a second, Michael, because one of the things that I discovered was very important while I was building several businesses was something that people now call culture. And everything we've been talking about thus far, where does culture fit into the picture? I mean, the culture of the workforce, the company culture, even as the customer experiences this, how does the E-Myth and beyond the E-Myth take this into account?
Well, it automatically, immediately, you can't help but begin this process without being acculturating into the process. So understand, culture is not what people think it to be. People think I'm going to go out and manufacture a culture. Bullshit. What you're going to do is what you do and the choices you make and the values you apply to those choices then create your culture. And it's a culture that's activated by doing.
That's right. And
so the way in which you approach what you do becomes ethos. I call it ethos of your company. So I'm going to suggest a book. I just reread it. I wrote it. It's called The Most Successful Small Business in the World, the 10 Principles. I'm going to suggest that every single one of you go out and get that book immediately, related to the word culture. And the reason I read that book again, I just came back from Austin, and one of the folks at Austin was Ken Goodrich. And Ken Goodrich tells the story. He told the story in front of the audience, just like Brian Scudamore did. Ken has created now 16 HVAC companies. He sold the first 15 of them. He built it, sold it, built it, sold it, built it, sold it, built it, sold it. The interesting thing about Ken is he tells the story, and he told it there in Austin, that the way he got to know me was because he was given his father's HVAC business when his dad died. And he had learned how to be a HVAC mechanic from his dad. Tells the story about how as a 10-year-old he held a flashlight over his father while he was working out on the job.
Sure.
And he learned firsthand how to be a great mechanic. And so he went to college, and while he's going to college, he's working part-time as an HVAC engineer, mechanic. Mm-hmm. And he graduates from college. He's going to college to go out into the real world. And he gets offered with a financial services firm his great position. And he says, I've been making 3 times that part-time while I was going to school fixing air conditioners.
Right.
The guy said, well, then you certainly should continue doing that. So Ken then took over his dad's business. He tells the story about how he was out on the shipping dock, and 4 men in suits and ties, et cetera, and so forth, walk up on the shipping dock and introduce themselves as IRS agents.
Ooh.
Ken tells the story about they took all his trucks, shut down the business, and now he owed $80,000 to the IRS because he failed to withhold taxes from his employees' payroll.
Sure.
He said, what? Like, nobody had ever taught him that. Nobody had ever taught him about the business of business.
Right.
He says, well, one thing had happened with Ken, he's telling the story. He went out and did a job. And in one case, a woman had to give him banana bread because she didn't have any money to pay for the air conditioner. Oh my
goodness. Okay.
Another one gave him a statue. Another one gave him my book. So Ken said, I go into my office to pick up something. They're watching me. The only thing I could pick up was your book. And he said, that night I went home and I read it, and I read it, and I read it, and I finished it by dawn. And he said, that next day I read it again. And the next day, I read it again. And then I swore to myself, because I was so ashamed, I couldn't tell my mother that I just crashed my father's business. He said I was so ashamed. I didn't tell my mother. One of my guys stayed with me and we started again. And I made a commitment, he said, that I'm going to build this business so successfully that I'm going to be able to sell it for $1 million in 2 years. That's what he said. In 2 years, I'm going to build it so I can sell it, following Michael Gerber's instruction to the letter. And he said it actually wasn't 2 years, it was 3. But it wasn't 1 million, it was 6 million.
Wow.
And I thought to myself, oh my God, I think I'll do that again. And he did. And then a third time, and then a fourth time, 15 times. Now, during the time he was doing that, he applied it to buying homes and flipping them at the same time. And he said, I have flipped 402 homes.
Jeez. By
applying the E Myth religiously. Step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, flip. Step 1, step 2. You follow me?
Yep, of course.
So when I say I can do this with a high school kid, I've done this with a high school kid thousands of times.
Yep.
When I say please understand, Mitch, it's not me.
I know.
It does this.
Yep.
But now I'm going to make it available to everyone.
Of course. And that's, again, a very big part of the mission, and I love it. I'd like to get back to the book. And the reason I want to get back to the book, frankly, because it so fascinated me, and I believe that there's keys in here that our listeners can apply today. So I want to talk about something you described, which I loved, the key frustrations list. I like how you describe in the book that it was the key to gaining credibility. And I think you used a story earlier that related to this. And you said, in fact, that it became the heart of your client fulfillment system. Can you get into that a little bit with us?
Sure. Let me talk about the 8-fold steps.
Okay.
In order to get into that question. Step 1 is the dream. Step 2 is the vision. Step 3 is the purpose. Step 4 is the mission. Step 5 is the job, which is the client fulfillment system. Step 6 is the practice, which is the client acquisition system. Step 7 is the business, which is the turnkey management system. And step 8 is the enterprise, which is the turnkey leadership system. Get the logic?
Yep.
People say to me, I don't need to do the dream stuff. They don't understand. Without the dream, vision, purpose, mission, there is no foundation for anything.
Of course.
There's just work.
Yep.
And if your business is just work, forget it. There's no conversation, because you're going to end up doing it, busy, like I've said for 40 years, and produce absolutely nothing.
Yep.
Other than stress, more work, and less income than you feel you deserve. So we have to get the dream, vision, purpose, and mission first. Now that's one thing I'm going to send you. I'm going to send you a landing page.
Okay.
And your folks will be able to sign up for what I call the dreaming room.
The dreaming room.
The dreaming room is where they discover their dream, vision, purpose, and mission. We're going to go through the first 4 steps together.
Wow.
And I'm going to do that in a way that I've never done it before.
Okay.
I've led now 62 dreaming rooms, and I've led them throughout the world. I've led them in Japan and Australia and New Zealand and the UK and Canada. I've led them throughout the United States, and they cost $5,000 for a 2.5-day intensive with me leading it. So effectively, in order for somebody to do that, they have to pay $5,000. They have to fly to wherever I'm leading it. Then they have to spend 2.5 days, 3 days in a hotel. Then they have to fly back and so forth. And so there's a lot of expense. So what I've decided to do is to eliminate all that expense.
Okay.
What I've done now is to eliminate all that expense and reduced it to a $2,000 commitment over 7 weeks online.
Okay.
I'm going to lead a dreaming room online 90 minutes a week for 7 consecutive weeks. And I'm going to give every single person listening to us right now, Mitch, the opportunity to enroll in it.
Wow.
That's the first step toward this revolution. And the revolution is they can now say, I have a dream, I have a vision, I have a purpose, I have a mission. And then we can begin with the question that you asked, which was about the client fulfillment system.
Right.
You understand, way back in 1977, when Tom and I sat down together, having decided we're creating a business development firm by the name of the Michael Thomas Corporation, with a program called the Michael Thomas Business Development Program. We spent weeks together deciding what our dream, our vision, our purpose, and our mission were. Mm-hmm. We couldn't start the company without absolutely knowing what our dream, our vision, our purpose, and our mission were. Because if we started a company without that, we wouldn't know what we're working toward.
Right.
You understand? We couldn't even begin it.
Well, what I do understand, Michael, is that there are a lot of people out there that skip those steps. And like you described earlier, they maybe couldn't find a job, or they had this idea that, or they stumbled into doing something and then figured they could do it again. And they built themselves a job that ultimately they're trapped in. And I could relate to that. There's been times in my life when I did the very same thing. So what I'm hearing is that if somebody were to attend this and work with you, they would have those 4 pieces in place and be able to completely conceptualize what a true business would be for them and be ready for the next steps, which again is the client fulfillment system that I had mentioned earlier.
Absolutely. That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying.
So
that means that over that 7 weeks, they're going to determine what their dream, their vision, their purpose, and their mission are, which is the core foundation for the enterprise they're setting out to create. The first step then in that is the job.
Right.
And so very important to understand that every great company starts as a job.
Of course.
Right? At McDonald's, what's the job? Making hamburgers.
Right.
At Starbucks, what's the job? Making coffee. The job. So effectively, if I know the dream, the vision, the purpose, and the mission, the size of this, then I can absolutely begin to approach the tactical components of this necessary to be able to deliver it.
Right.
And the client fulfillment system is key.
Of course.
Everybody talks about internet marketing, about info marketing, about all that, but everybody leaves out the one thing that's most important. It's called the product.
Right. The product.
What am I here to sell?
Yep.
What am I here to deliver?
Yep.
What am I here to do, and what difference does it make?
Mm-hmm.
That's what this process determines.
Well, it's of course, super important to not just know what your product is, but to perfect your product, and to perfect it in such a way so that it's repeatable, so that you could pick it up and move the solution to just about any client who does that. That is what I would think of as a true client fulfillment system. Is that right?
Absolutely.
Okay. This episode is brought to you by OscarHamilton.com, who edit and produce all of our podcast episodes. They have a great range of services for podcasters at all levels. They can help you set up your podcast, but also offer a couple of excellent services to help you edit your shows and get them up with great show notes. Check them out at OscarHamilton.com. As we get deeper into the client acquisition system, please explain why you say production and delivery before marketing and sales. Why do you say that?
Very simply because I have to have something to deliver.
Of course.
The only reason I'm in business is not to sell something. The reason I'm in business is to deliver something.
Right.
And what am I going to deliver? I'm going to deliver a transformational experience to every single one of our clients to create a new life with.
Yep.
And that new life has a deep underwriting purpose to it. And that purpose is to transform the lives of the people I'm here to serve. So the company I'm creating is here to serve someone, this central demographic model consumer who is so important to me.
Right.
I care about her. I care about him. This unmarried mother who's on welfare, who's on food stamps. I care about her. I want to help her free herself, liberate herself from what entraps her in this undistinguished, terribly consuming lifestyle that is literally what is limiting her from becoming who she can become.
Yep. And when you do that, I mean, at the end stage where a person becomes transformed, where they've drinking the Kool-Aid and they're fully on board, I think you call that the true believer. Is that right?
Yeah, but understand, I call that the true believer, but they're a true believer in life.
Okay.
And not a true believer in me.
Yep.
They're not a true believer in it, though they all become that. And I'm the tens of thousands of letters. All you need to do is to go on to Amazon and look up the E Myth Revisited and read all the letters that come in testifying to that, or to any of my books.
Right.
It will just tell you the story over and over and over. You changed my life. You changed my life. No, you changed your life. How did you change your life? By becoming a student in my school.
Yep.
My school wasn't here to become a wealthy school. My school was here to create extraordinarily effective students who can go out in the world and transform it. That's what my job is.
Right.
That's what my calling is. That's what we're here to do.
Yep.
Not to aggrandize myself, not to aggrandize our people, but to transform the state of the people who come to learn lives. And they do that. I say, if you have the will, we have the way. If you have the will, we have the way. If you have the freaking will, we have the freaking way that we've tested and validated millions of times. And now you get to use it for chump change.
Yep.
In a way that's never been made available before. That's what our mission is right now.
Right. And I think what I want to make sure is clear here is that Michael's passion about his current business and about his current mission is, and eventually the people who go through this process and become true believers in themselves through Michael's work, consist of the stories, the successes, the transformation from one place to another. And that ultimately builds what Michael Gerber calls the great story. And the great story is truly the key to hooking new potential clients and enticing them, stroking their curiosity, knowing that they will love the product. And from there, it's basically multiplication. Isn't that right, Michael?
Absolutely. And when I was in Austin, I learned, I heard it so many times before, but I heard Brian Scudamore's great story.
Right.
800 Got Junk. I heard Ken Goodrich's great story that I just shared with you.
Yep.
I built it, I sold it. 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 I'm in the business of applying Michael's work in the arena of HVAC contracting to a degree that has never been done before. And it's absolutely methodological. It can be repeated and repeated at will. Now think about that. If that's true, and it is, and it's true for countless thousands of people on the planet, if that's true, then it's true for everybody who's listening to me right now. And your great story is waiting to be born. So understand, when Ken Goodrich was sitting there and the IRS shut him down, and the shame he felt of having lost his father's business. Think about that. He suddenly had a passport, and that passport required his will to follow this way religiously. Why? Because his life depended upon it. I can't allow my father's legacy to be lost so terribly, shamefully. I've got to pay the price for that. And he did. And he is. But there is no more shame. There is no more guilt. There's just joy. And the joy that he has the power to do that. And for the countless people he's actually delivered that to. How stunning. You get to do that. Everybody gets to do that. That's the good news.
Well, again, Michael, I have to say that, as we continue this journey through your system, we started to get into this discussion now about legacy. And I understand the emotional components of legacy and why, in particular, why it was so important to him and his mom and all that. But why do you feel that meaning the end user, the person who's doing this, why is that legacy so important in respect to the enterprise? Where does that come into play?
It just is.
Okay.
And so what can I tell you? A rabbi came and called on me, a Chabad rabbi.
Mm-hmm.
And this is 10 years ago. And he said, and he was speaking of a number of his peers,
mm-hmm.
Chabad rabbis in California. He said, I've been reading your book, the E Myth Revisited, and it's an inspired book. And it inspired us to realize that there is so much to learn about the work we do that we don't understand. Would you come and meet with us just to talk about that? Well, I was fascinated by it. I mean, I'm a Jew, but I'm not a practicing Jew, and he's an Orthodox Jew.
Right.
The rabbis wear the black felt hats and the black suits and an Orthodox Jew.
Yep.
Here I am, just, a wandering Jew.
Right.
And he calls me. So I was fascinated by what he said. I said, well, of course I'll meet with you. So we met in Orange County at the Irvine Chabad House.
Yep.
And he said, what do you know about Chabad? And I said, frankly, nothing. He said, well, did you look us up? I said, no. I said, I assume since I'm meeting with 9 Chabad rabbis, between the 9 of you, you could figure out how to bring me up to date. So I said, so tell me the story. So they start telling me the story of the Rebbe. It's R-E-B-B-E.
Mm-hmm.
And Chabad, and how Chabad started, and Hasidus, and he went on to tell the story. And it was a moving story. And essentially, his father, this rabbi I'm speaking about, his father was the Rebbe sent to California to open up the first Chabad house. Wow. His father opened up the first Chabad house in Los Angeles and then was instrumental in opening up over 300 more in California and Nevada. He has 16 sons, 14 of whom are Chabad rabbis.
Wow.
And the one I'm speaking to was, at that time, 36 years old. And his Chabad house was near the ocean in Los Angeles. In any case, I'm there and I'm hearing their story and I'm listening to their tales and why Chabad houses were created in the first place. And the fact that first there was 1 and then there was 2 and then there were 10. And now there are 4,000 Chabad houses worldwide. And the outcome of Chabad House was to expand Yiddishkeit worldwide, the life of a Jew.
Right.
And of course, every Chabad house starts with the beginner, called Shliach, that's the rabbi,
right,
and his wife called the Rebbitzin. So it's the rabbi and his wife go, they're sent to Romania, they're sent to Argentina, or they're sent to wherever they're sent to. And they are sent there to prosper and grow with nothing more than the will, Torah, and the commitment to awaken the spirit of Yiddishkeit in the community they're sent to do this in.
Mm-hmm.
There is no system. There is no system. The system is Torah.
Right.
So he's telling me this story. And I'm sitting there, and as I'm listening to this story, and as he speaks about the Rebbe, tears come into his eyes. Rebbe is passed in 1994. It immediately struck me. And it just struck me, Mitch. And it was struck me as a statement inside of me. I didn't say it to them. I said, so this is why I've been doing the work that I've been doing.
Wow.
Just for this moment.
I completely understand that. That goes back to that thought that says everything I've ever done my entire life leads to this very moment in time where I get to apply all of my skills and my wisdom to the next thing I'm about to do. And that's where you are.
You got it.
In your story.
And that's where you are, Mitch. And that's why I say that it's our calling.
Yep.
And we're not clear about it. We just simply go to work on it, doing it. So why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? Because it's important. Because it's important. Because it's being called to be done. Because I know how to do this. And because I'm committed to learn more than what I know how to do. But it's not about me. It's about them. All of these people are struggling in small business without a clue what they're missing. I can see it.
Yep.
And if I can see it, and I fail to seize the moment of the day, then I fail to realize my being here in life. We're here for a reason, Mitch.
Of course.
None of us know what that is. But I can tell you it has nothing to do with you. It has nothing to do with me. It has to do with your daughter.
Yep.
Working in a shoe store for $11 an hour without any understanding of what's missing in this picture. I can help her see what's missing in this picture. And as I help her see what's missing in this picture, something wakes up in her. And that someone who wakes up in her, Mitch, is that entrepreneur within. That's the intuitive soul within. It's the creator within. And I'm gifted to the point that I'm knowledgeable about exactly how to do that. If I didn't do that, it would be a sin.
That's right. That's right. So you understand that your role here, you are delivering exactly what was given to you divinely to the rest of the world for the greater good. And I understand that. I'd like to get back, if I could, to something you said in the book. And I think at this point in our conversation, we're just about at the most important element of your thesis, and in fact, the ultimate and most critical goal of the successful company builder. To me, I see that as the replication of your client acquisition system that will really allow unlimited expansion and lead to the sale of that growing, thriving enterprise or Chabad house, as it may be. So how does one start at the point of having done the first four steps, having created the vision, understanding what the roles are, understanding how to build the client delivery system? Finally, we get to client acquisition and replication of such. How does one start with that?
Well, it's really very, very simple. We can make it complicated, but it's really very, very simple. And that's why my 29th book, that's why Beyond the E Myth, the evolution of an enterprise from a company of one to a company of 1,000. I'm saying the eightfold path is very, very simple. I'm saying it reveals itself.
Yeah.
So effectively, I'm saying that the answers to your questions come about from taking the actions that I'm instructing people to take. In short, when we begin to search for our dream, we find it. When we find it and go searching for our vision, we find it. When we find it and go searching for our purpose, we find it. And ditto with our mission, we find it. It begins to form itself. And so once you begin the process, Mitch, without any knowledge of what's going to occur, I couldn't have predicted that my Chabad rabbi would call me 10 years ago and introduce himself and saying, your book must have been created through Torah. I said, I'm sorry. I'd love to take credit for that, but I can't, and I won't. Mm. He said, whether you know it or not, it has been. I'll take your word for it. Yeah. You understand? I could not have predicted any of this. I couldn't have predicted, Mitch, that we'd be having this conversation.
Right.
But what I can say is that it will reveal itself when time is ready for it.
Yep.
And so we're here for a reason beyond our ken, beyond our ability to know, all because we've done what we have done up to this point in time. Mm-hmm. And because that's true, it means every single human being who hears this right now at this moment is ready for this right now at this moment. They then have an option called yes, no. What most will do is maybe. And then go into the netherland of forgetting, which is what everybody does. I'm saying the beauty of this opportunity is that everybody can afford to do it. So I've eradicated the obstacle of cost.
Right.
Eradicated it, which means now nobody can say, I can't afford it. All they can say to me is, I don't know. They can't tell me what I'm saying doesn't work because I have extreme thousands upon thousands of people who paid thousands upon thousands of dollars to apply it, and it worked.
Yep.
Now I'm saying everybody can do it.
Well, I agree with you. And I got to tell you, as I told you before, the stories that you shared illustrate that just about anybody starting at any level can become successful. I myself have proven that it works. And, you know, the thing about it, the way you describe the role of the entrepreneur, the dreamer, the thinker, the storyteller, and the leader, I mean, that resonates with me so much because we're never taught how to be entrepreneurs. I think the name comes to people when they have nothing else to call themselves. It used to be called out of work. Then they call them a consultant, I think is the next phase.
Yeah, that's what it is.
And then finally they become an entrepreneur. But what I think is happening today, Michael, is I think that the people who are listening to this show are here for a reason. I don't think it's an accident that they happen to find my podcast with you as my esteemed guest. And I think that the message that you are telling and the message that I'm standing 100% behind is that we're here to change the world and we have a way to do it. And it's not even hard or expensive. And what I want to do is I want to commit for myself that I want to be part of this mission because I believe in it. I believe in you. And I believe in the effect it can have, not on just me and my daughter or my family, but really on the nation, on my community, on the reduction of the welfare system that is choking this country. If everyone became a true entrepreneur, that dreamer, thinker, storyteller, and leader, it would take us to a place where we once again, as Donald Trump may say, experience the true prosperity and make America great again. So, Michael, I think that everything that you've discussed today is so inspirational and brings everything to a head, really, about the mission itself and where we're going. What I want to talk about now is I'd like to get back, because you know I'm an engineer and I love the systems side of this, is I want to just make a conclusion, if I can, for myself, because ultimately a business is really an aggregate of up to 7 turnkey practices. And that turnkey management system, which is the core enablement mechanism of the duplication of that system. And I think, in fact, maybe the most important element of it. The reason is that because I think the turnkey management system is the key to rapidly and smoothly scaling the enterprise. Because without that, you can't go anywhere. You trip on your own feet. It's sort of like that old IBM commercial where the startup puts the first web page out there and they get one click and they cheer. and they get 3 clicks and they cheer. And the next thing you know, the counter is going wild, and now they're going, oh my God, what do we do now?
Right.
So can you talk a little bit about this whole aggregation, the 7 turnkey practices, and ultimately how it leads to the big conclusion, which is the product itself and the sale of the company?
Well, let me do that. And again, the only way I do anything is let me go back to the beginning.
Sure.
First of all, the client fulfillment system is what we're here to deliver.
Yep.
And so it is to deliver a result for my most important customer. In this particular case, the client fulfillment system is going to deliver the result to our most important customer, the person who now has a dream, a vision, a purpose, and a mission, who's ready to begin to go to work on their company of one while going to work in their company of one. We're going to provide them with an ability to create their own client fulfillment system. And so effectively, they have to determine who their most important customer is. They have to determine why they're doing what they're doing for that most important customer. And they have to deliver or understand the outcome of what they're about to deliver in their client fulfillment system. This is to do what? What's missing in this picture? That's what the client fulfillment system is there to do. So whether that is a law firm or whether that's an accountancy or whether that's a lawnmower guy or a plumber or whomever, whatever the job is, you understand, they're going to design a truly remarkably effective way to deliver it.
Yep.
And it says, this is how we do law. This is how we do books. This is how we do accounting. This is how we mow lawns. This is how we paint a fence. This, you follow me. What is the job? What is the job? What is the result? What is the result? And so forth. And so this is how we pick up junk. This is how we get rid of the junk we pick up. That's what happens in the job. That's what happens in the client fulfillment system. So the person we're working with is going to determine what the job is, how they're going to do it in a way that differentiates them successfully from everybody else who's doing it, and now they're ready to grow their company. And so they're ready to grow their company in step 6, which is called the practice, called the 3-legged stool.
Yep.
The practice is a 3-legged stool. The first leg is lead generation, the second leg is lead conversion, and the third leg is client fulfillment. The practice is your franchise prototype. Practice is your McDonald's store.
Right.
The practice is what you now would call a business, but it ain't there yet.
Mm-hmm.
In short, you're going to have to create your client acquisition system and your client fulfillment system. Lead generation, lead conversion, client fulfillment. The 3-legged stool, the franchise prototype. So we're going to go to work on the practice to build a system that will enable us to produce exactly the number of clients or customers we need for practice number 1. So think about this from a chiropractor's point of view. The chiropractor is going to deliver the client fulfillment system. He's chiropractor number 1. The lead generation, lead conversion system are going to attract a sufficient number of leads to convert a sufficient number of clients to keep that chiropractor up to capacity. You got it?
Yep.
That's the company of one.
Yep.
The company of one is the 3-legged stool. The 3-legged stool works harmoniously to provide a sufficient number of clients for chiropractor 1 to deliver the client fulfillment system to religiously. You get that?
Yes.
Because we've now designed that, built that, tested that, quantified that, and qualified that, and systematized that, documented that, written it down in an operations manual, just like in McDonald's or Starbucks or any Apple Store, and so forth, we now are ready to scale, which means we're ready to grow. We built the template. We built the model. You can't go anywhere without that model, and you can't scale it unless and until you've built that model and it's being delivered in exactly the way it was intended to be. That then becomes your brand. And so you suddenly see, I have a dream, a vision, a purpose, and a mission, which create the platform upon which I'm going to build my client fulfillment system, upon which I'm going to build my client acquisition system. I'm ready to grow it, which means I'm now ready to create a business, which is step 7. And you've very clearly defined my definition of a business. A business is defined as nothing other than up to 7 turnkey practices plus a turnkey management system. Because you understand now, at the heart of the business is the hub of that wheel with 7 turnkey practices manned by 7 chiropractors or 7 consultants or 7 whatever they might be, attorneys, landscape contractors, on and on and on and on and on and on and on, all who have mastered the client fulfillment system, all served by a client acquisition system, which effectively brings to them the number of clients, the number of customers that we have determined they need to fill them to capacity. You can see the mathematics of this.
Of course. And not only that,
got it?
I got it completely. And I have to say, what you've just taken us through here in this last practically 2 hours of incredible instruction, Michael, is I think what you've done is you've laid out the plan for any company in any business to not just be successful, and this is the key element, but to duplicate itself into successful after successful after successful. And when we're able to do that, that's when we can create what you call the franchise. And that's when that company now is so valuable, it becomes the product. No longer is the product getting your shoulders rubbed by a chiropractor, but the product is the chiropractic business itself.
You got it.
And that, to me, is the gold in this whole process. And I have to tell you, Michael, it's overwhelmingly simple, but so stark in its application. It's so straightforward. It's not as if there's, you don't need an MBA to do this. In fact, as you were saying earlier, you hardly need a high school diploma to do this.
You don't need a high school diploma to do it.
Right.
Jobs had a high school diploma. He did it.
Yep.
Bill Gates had a high school diploma. He did it.
Yep. Absolutely.
Anita Roddick had a high school diploma. She did it. You can do it. We can do it. Everybody can do it. That's the genius of this.
Yep.
Nobody has ever taught this before, Mitch. Nobody, the way in which we're now teaching it.
I would like to invite listeners once again to be part of this. And I want you to do at least one thing. And I would like everyone listening to make a promise to me, even though I can't hear you. I want you to make a promise anyway. I want you to go out and go on Amazon, and I want you to get Michael's book, Beyond the E Myth. And the reason is because inside that book is everything we talked about today. Now, when I read that book for the first time, I couldn't put it down. I bought it on a Kindle, and I was sorry I did. I reordered the paper version because what I wanted to do is go now get my yellow marker and start marking stuff up, which is how I compartmentalize in my head. So get the paper version. Do yourself a favor. If you don't have a yellow marker, I know it's a simple suggestion, get a yellow marker and start making relevant highlights of what you need to do now. And if we follow the process that Michael laid out, then consider this idea of the dreaming room. I know I want to do it because it's just frankly, I'm fascinated by the process and I want to see it. But this is more important than just being fascinated. This could be the absolute basis and beginning of your entire future. So take a hard look at this.
It not only could be, it will be.
It will be. It will be. So I want you guys to take a hard look at this, and I want you to think about it. And what I'm going to do with Michael's cooperation is I'm going to put a lot of information on the show notes page. So go to, if you're listening to this in the car, you just pick this up off iTunes, go to yourfirst1000clients.com, go to Michael Gerber's page, and at the bottom of the show page, you will see all of the links. In fact, if it's okay with you, Michael, I'd like to list the steps as well in the show notes so people can be reminded of the power of the simplicity of the system. Michael, this has been an event in my life today. I want to just share with you that it was my privilege to be able to spend this time with you, and I will listen to this episode over and over again myself, and I help listeners do the same. So thank you so much today for being with me. Thank you for being such a giving person. Thank you for taking on this mission of trying to change the world in the greatest way possible by helping people stand up on their own 2 feet and be successful. Thank you, Michael Gerber.
My delight, Mitch. Thanks.
You've been listening to Your First 1,000 Clients with your host, Mitch Russo. Go to www.yourfirst1000clients.com for a free guide on how to get 1,000 of your own clients. And if you like this episode, please go to iTunes and subscribe, rate, and review.